everybody, to the February 13th Village Board meeting for the Village of Woodbury. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just a moment of silence for all those lost in the service of our country. Thank you. Okay, so before we get to our regular agenda, we have a continuation of a public hearing for introductory local law number 5 of 2018, a senior housing zone change. Desiree, can you read the notice, please?
The purpose of this introductory local law is to, 1, change the zoning designation for properties located along New York State Route 32, Section 218, Block 2, Lots 7, 9, 10, 11, and 13, from LC Limited Commercial to R2A Residential to SH Senior Housing. 2, the zoning designation for a portion of the property located along New York State Route 32, Section 218, Block 2, Lot 6, from CR Corridor Residential to SH Senior Housing. And 3, to the village zoning maps reflect such change to address concerns of having split zone lots within the village.
Thank you. There's nobody in the first row. Anybody in the second row would like to come up and say anything about this? Anybody in the third row? Anybody in the fourth row in the back there? Anybody in the back of the room? Consultants? No? Okay. Okay, with that said, can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, then the motion carries. Excuse me, all in favor? Aye. Motion carries. I had a request from the applicant to allow written comment for a period of 10 days. 8 days would be through Friday. Oh, excuse me. There was a written comment that was submitted by Mr. Higgins from Highland Mills, which I'll read. This sets a bad precedent for rule of law in our zoning that could be interpreted to suit applicants in the future at our peril. This is the epitome of spot zoning. Traffic Route 32, with the tenfold increase in capacity at the rock quarry and being a major thoroughfare for overweight fuel tanker tractor trailers, the traffic is unacceptable now. It's dangerous enough already. Couple this with the limited access line of sight distance, and it could make it explosive. It always floods at entrance to Timber Ridge. It's never been properly addressed. The mobile homes and probably other homes and businesses could be flash flooded. Administrative costs for compliance, if moved forward, should be addressed clearly. Any and all time and effort for administration should be calculated and be agreed upon and billed by the village. And that was submitted by Matt Higgins from Highland Mills. So I did have a request from the applicant to allow written comment for a period of 10 days. 8 days would bring it to Friday the 28th, which I think would be more reasonable. Can I have a motion to allow written comment through February 28th, Friday, at close of business?
I'll make that motion.
A second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes, of course. Comment should be sent to the village clerk here at Village Hall, 455 Route 32.
P.O. Box 546, Central Valley.
Or that.
Or to village clerk at villageofwoodbury.com.
Okay, thank you, Des. Okay, so moving on, we have a new item that will appear on our agenda, public comment on agenda items only. Before we call the public up for public comment on agenda items only, I just want to point out one correction in the agenda at the last minute. We do not have council present for the new short-term rentals introductory local law that we were going to introduce tonight. So we're going to table that for now. So I just wanted to make mention of that. So anybody in the second row have anything to say with regard to agenda items? Anybody in the third row? Anybody in the fourth row? Mrs. Hunter, you're getting up.
Since that item is going to be tabled tonight, can I ask a question about that particular law, or you want me to hold my comments?
Hold the comments.
Yeah, I would say hold the comments until the next time.
Okay, because I was reading the law, and I was printed it here, and I just wanted short-term rentals. Airbnb or not? Because I was confused with the way I was reading it.
Airbnb.
Okay, because because if it has in here the term party or event, hosting 6 or more non-occupants. So Airbnb is like 3 days in a row and they can have a party there, or with 6 people or more? I was just confused the way it was written.
Yeah,
All right.
we're gonna clarify all of that when we do take it
Okay.
off the table.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Maria. Anybody else have anything for the agenda? All right, then moving on with regular business. Administrative business, needed a motion and a second for acceptance of minutes for the meeting held January 23rd.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we need an approval of the abstract. Desiree, can you please read the abstract?
Abstract 17 contains vouchers 191353 through 191490, and by voiding check 18835, and it totals $188,070.28.
Okay, can I have a motion, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
The Dell Marketing 6804, 6,804, what?
That was for a server for the village office.
Server,
We
okay.
do not have a file server. Everything's been stored on Desiree's machine, and we
that's
needed to
not-
separate that out and make it
Okay.
more appropriate. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Fire Department equipment requisitions. Need a motion and a second to approve Fire Department equipment requisition 2020-05, totaling approximately $1,995.50 for the purchase of fire prevention materials, and 2020-06, totaling approximately $89. That's actually a programming cable, or a programming cradle for a radio, not to program a radio. So can I have a motion in a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Fire Department membership items. We need a motion and a second to accept the application for membership with the Highland Mills Fire Company from Mark Franco and Kiernan Hagan.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion and a second to accept with regrets the resignation of Dan Ward from the Highland Mills Fire Company effective February 1st, 2020.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion. I just want to make one comment with regard to that. Dan served with the Highland Mills Fire Company, the Woodbury Fire Department, for almost 17 years. He rose to the rank of captain. He was a good officer. He was a good firefighter. He was well-liked and respected in the fire company. So we are going to miss him here in town. He's a police officer up in Wallkill, and he moved up that way, which is why he can no longer serve here. So we're going to miss him. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, old business. We have the developers agreement for Aon that was tabled last time to make some last-minute changes. So we need a motion and a second to authorize me, the mayor, to sign the developers agreement with Aon LLC for the development of property known on the Woodbury tax maps as Section 226, Block 1, Lots 21.2 and 39.2.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so new business, new business. We have an introductory local law number 1 of 2020 for a tax cap override. Now, we do this every year. More often than not, we do not exceed the tax cap, but we have to pass the local law before we pass our budget, and we're just not sure every year. Although I'm sorry to say it's likely that we're going to exceed the tax cap this year for a couple of reasons. We just have increased expenditures in the village, and the tax cap is now down to 1.84, correct? 1.84% from 2% as it was last year. We need a motion and a second to adopt the following resolution by the Village Woodbury Board of Trustees setting a time and place for a public hearing. Do we need to read this?
I'll make that motion.
Hang on.
The resolution in summary basically declares yourselves as lead agency, and preliminary classifies the action as an unlisted action under secret.
Okay.
And then
Sets
sets
the-
the time and place, yeah. I'm sorry.
February 27, 2020 at 7:30 basically at our next board meeting. So, I'm sorry, Jesus, you had the motion, correct?
I'll make that motion.
Can I have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next on the agenda, authorize me, the mayor, to sign the union employment contract for the highway department. We have a union employment with the Highway Department for a term beginning June 1st, 2020 and ending May 31st, 2025.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No, it's fine.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. We need to schedule a public hearing for the Community Development Fiscal Year 2021 grant. This is a grant that falls under the 2021 Orange County Community Development Block Grant Program. Under this program, a variety of physical improvements as listed are eligible for funding, and on that list are acquisition and disposition of real property, public works, public facilities or site improvements, code enforcement, housing and health codes, clearance, demolition, and rehabilitation for public use or economic development, housing rehabilitation loans and grants, special projects for elderly and handicapped, the provision of public services like shelters, clinics, senior nutrition, etc., and payment of non-federal shares of other grant programs, relocation payments, and assistance. So we want to schedule that for February 27th at 7:30. Can we get a motion in a second, please?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D, discussion introductory local law 2 of 2020, we're going to table for now, as we discussed. Okay. Well, that took a chunk out of our agenda. So public comment. That concludes our regular business. So we have public comment. Anybody in the second row? It's on, Joe.
Yeah, and I like the old ones.
Good evening, Joe Zalata, Central Valley. I was just wondering if you can provide an update on where the current litigation stands with the town over the property dispute. I did see an article recently. It looked like a motion to dismiss was turned down. I assume that means it's going to trial. Are there still ongoing talks? Or does it look like we're headed to a full-blown trial on this? And can you give an idea of what's been expended thus far?
Well, I'll ask Desiree to answer the last question first if she knows offhand. I don't have that figure handy.
I don't have that figure offhand either, but you're welcome to foil it tomorrow, and then my staff can gather the information for you and present it to you that way.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, Joe, the last motion that the village made was denied, very similar to the motion that the town made last year, which was also denied. As it stands right now, it is scheduled to go to trial later this year. However, yes, there have been some discussions between myself and the town supervisor. I don't really want to comment too much further on that because there are ongoing discussions and there's, it's a fluid situation, but, we have good confidence, a high degree of confidence that we'll be able to dispose of this before trial. That's the intent, that's what everybody wants, and that's what we're shooting for.
Yeah, the only reason I brought it up was because there seemed to be a lot of misconception out on Facebook pages about what that denial meant in court.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I know that you had come out with a statement
Yeah.
clarifying that, but I just thought for those who didn't read it, listen to this broadcast, it would be beneficial for them to hear.
I appreciate that, Joe, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kraus?
Neil Kraus, Highland Mills. These do work a lot better. Colin Schmidt, I think, has just released information that the Orange County delegation to the State Assembly, has, I guess unanimously, that would be both Republicans and Democrats, have in the state legislature, in the Assembly, have supported the community preservation. And I would urge the board to look into this seriously. They're proposing that it be county-wide, and I think that the county has not gone with that in a couple of years. But there have been communities like Warwick, Cornwall, and other communities, they have done it. and this would be a way to preserve green space and stuff. This came up as a discussion point at the Moodna Intermunicipal Council that I attended last month. And I think this is something we should look at and maybe work with the town on it. Even if it's not approved for the county, a local resolution can be passed and we could become part of this. Now, it would have to be looked at seriously because not only are there positive things where efforts could be made to preserve green space, but there's also downsides like the economic cost and things like that. So maybe look at it, and the board could have a small committee or something to look further into what both the positive and the negative impacts would be on Woodbury. And then possibly if the positive impacts are better, is consider doing a local resolution.
I had a conversation with Councilwoman Hernandez about that, and you know, Tara, did you like? I know that's one of your passions. Would you like to address that? I think that'd be great.
Yeah, so, Neil, we've been looking into that here. Desiree was able to get a copy of Warwick's plan. Cornwall revised their comprehensive plan, and one of the items for them to observe further is exactly that, community preservation plan. The town in Blooming Grove is in the final stages of their approval. And I think it's something that we absolutely need to look forward to in Woodbury. And as you said appropriately, I think the pros and the cons need to be weighed. An exploratory committee should be formed and see where it goes from there, but it's something that should not be left on the table. My only concern about Mr. Schmidt's co-sponsoring of the bill is that it does not include villages. It's only right now for towns and cities, so I'm curious as to why villages weren't included, but it is something that we could definitely work with the town on if it does go through at the county level. Because right now Ulster, Putnam, Westchester are all part of it, and Orange isn't, which I don't understand, so thank you for bringing that up. Near and dear. Go back. Come on, we'll wait.
You can't
We'll
talk
wait.
from your seat. You should know better.
He said, I love it.
Yeah. He was happy there.
I know.
You can move your seat there, buddy.
Well, our comprehensive plan was passed in 2011, and I think the board has indicated interest in revisiting it and revising it, and this could be part of that plan as it's looked at.
Absolutely. I agree 100%.
Great suggestion.
Thanks, Neil. Good comments, and thanks, Tara.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in the second row? Mrs. Kraus? No, it's already covered. He covered it for you? Okay. Third row? I think we should just do roll call. Mr. Smith, would you like to come up?
That's funny.
John Smith, Highland Mills. I'd like to start off by commending Joe Zlato for the items he's been working on regarding Cablevision. He's written letters to Skoufis and Schmidt. You might want to speak to him about the results that he got, like nothing from Skoufis. And he gave me some very interesting information that it's not a Public Service Commission decision. It goes up as far as the FCC. So you should be aware of that and not wait till the last minute before you decide to do something about it or whatever. And you might have gotten your bill already.
Can I just respond to that before you move
Sure.
on to the next item? So yes, I appreciate your comments on that. Joe and I did have a conversation last week sometime, right, Joe? Last meeting that you came to, yes. So we had a meeting, we had a conversation about that. And the village will be negotiating the franchise agreement that expires next March of 2021. So we're already looking at that, and we're looking into details like the ones that you've talked about tonight. So I just want to let you know that.
There was a developers agreement with Aon. Can you kind of mention what they're building or what they're developing?
Well, I can't speak to their submission to the planning board as I don't have it in front of me and I don't know exactly what it is, other than to say I believe it's a small hotel down on Estrada. I can tell you what's in the developer's agreement. That I could speak to if you're interested, but that's what it's going to be.
No, I didn't know which project it was, but I remember that one.
Yeah.
It's been on the board for quite a while.
Yes.
Okay. You also mentioned about expenses, and that we might be going over the tax override because we have a lot of expenses
Well-
coming out. Are you going to be able to tell the taxpayers what expenses those are going to
Absolutely,
be and
of
whatever?
course. As we always do, we're
Not
going
after,
to have
not
our...
after the fact, though.
Of course not. We're going to have our budget public hearing when we're ready to do that. We haven't even met with our departments yet. I was just referring to the annual increase in expenses that all municipalities, all homes and businesses experience, coupled with the decrease in the tax cap. So, it just seems likely because we were very, very close last year. And something else I can say about that, like last year, our AIM funding was not in the budget again, but I've already spoken to our state representatives about that, and they're very confident they'll be able to get it back into the budget. I plan on speaking at some budget press conferences later in the season before the budget's passed at the state level. So the AIM funding of $27,000 hopefully should be restored, but that was one of the reasons why we weren't sure last year if we were going to be able to, and we didn't count on it, and we're not counting on it this year because we won't know until after we pass our budget. But as we always do, we'll have our budget public hearings, and all the information will be available.
What is AIM funding, or?
That's, Rob, you want to talk about AIM funding a little bit? Oh, it's not Rob, I thought it was,
No, Rob was not AIM, sorry.
my apologies.
AIM is a public assistance that the state gives to municipalities to offset the unfunded mandates.
I'm sorry, I'll say it.
It's an amount of money that the state allocates to the villages and towns in the state to offset the unfunded mandates.
Okay. All right.
It's not a lot.
Right, I
It's usually
understand.
27,000.
Right.
We used to always budget for it. The past, I think either year or 2 years, we've stopped budgeting for it because it was an unknown.
Yeah, but that could quickly change.
Well, last year we weren't getting it at all, and then I believe it was Senator Skoufis, who then was Assemblyman
Bolton.
Skoufis, and Colin, yeah, who pushed for it, because there's only 3 or 4 villages that aren't part of that group because the AIM was created prior to those villages being formed, us in South Blooming Grove in this area being one of them. I think there's one in Long Island, but that's what that is. So we can't budget for it because it's still an unknown.
Right. And Assemblyman Schmidt was the one that reached out to me to let me know, and I also spoke to Senator Skoufis about that right after that. So they're both going to be pushing for us to get that reinstated.
Okay, the last item is, in case you missed it, this was the DEC and the,
If you're going to submit something, John, could you just submit it to Desiree? Sure. Yeah, thank you.
Me, bud.
There you go, kid.
there's even one for you.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, yeah, we saw this. Oh, I saw this.
Okay, you can see all of the towns and so forth took a big loss with this and so forth. You never know what it's going to be, and you don't know what influence our neighbors had in this decision or whatever like that, or what's going to happen in the future. It's time for you to, join forces, I think, with all the other towns and villages to fight this off and make sure that KJ and whoever pays their fair share if it comes to rebuilding or whatever.
Yeah,
This is more like a case where the wastewater hit the fan, and we need to act now.
we're already doing that, yeah. I actually have some comments with regard to water and sewer, but with regard to what you just said, I can tell you that we, and when I say we, I mean mayors and supervisors in the Moodna District and Orange County Sewer District Number 1, are already having informal conversations, and we're talking about forming some kind of committee to get together to at least meet on this issue and, as you said, join forces to fight the fight up at the county level.
All right. Are our representatives doing anything?
Which ones?
The county representatives?
Trustee Giacomazza and I met with them, and I was actually going to talk about that. But yes, we're working very closely with them. We just met with them a couple days ago, right over at that table.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody in the fourth row would like to say anything? Anybody in the back?
Maria Hunter, once again. Silly question. When would the board be rendering their decision for the local law 5 of 2008 that was, the public hearing was closed tonight?
Well, we're going to be accepting written comment until the 28th.
So,
one of the things we're waiting for is the secret standing from the planning board. This planning board has to make their secret determination before we can take any further action.
You need secret.
Unless it's
All right,
negative.
So you're looking sometime, probably.
March, be in March sometime.
March
It has to
meeting,
be at
the
this
first
point.
or the second one, all right. We're talking with residents this week. I've had 2 residents ask me if I had some gentleman come to my front door asking about a crime survey, wearing a trench coat and everything. I said I wasn't aware of it. I told them to contact town and village clerk Potvin if there was anyone doing a survey. What concerns me the most is that they're saying that they're from the DOJ doing a survey and they don't live in New York State. I don't know if they have a permit or permission from the village or the town to be going door to door. I find it very disconcerting because I have a 90-year-old mother-in-law. She gets the front door. She lets someone into the house because they want to come into your house, sit at your table, and go over a survey. If I'm not there or my husband, I don't know what they're asking, and I don't know if anyone else has heard about this. And I know we do have the do not call list. I would strongly urge the village somehow get it out to the public again via whatever media possible, that there is a do not call list. Be aware there are people coming around. And recently, as someone on Facebook said, that a woman with a child who was crying, the person insisted on going in the house. I find that scary. I don't know if it's legitimate or not. So I'm just asking the board, because I know we have the options, somehow get it out there. Close the door, call the police, don't put it on Facebook. This is to all residents. Be smart, shut the door. It's your home, don't let anyone in if you feel uncomfortable. I can't tell anyone else what to do, but you gotta be smart in this day and age. So that's just my little rant about people knocking on your doors. And you do have seniors and people who don't know, who are new to the area, they don't know what to do. Don't put it on Facebook. Call the police immediately if you have a concern or you're unsure.
Well said.
So
Agreed.
Maria, before you go on, you asked if I had received any notification about that. So the peddling law that we have is for people who are peddling wares or their services or that kind of thing. It's not someone doing surveys. I also received a phone call this afternoon from a resident on Highland Woods Boulevard who said someone from the DOJ was there. I informed that individual, and if anybody knocks on your door at any time, you call the police. The police are there to help you. The police are there for you. There's no notification required by state agencies to tell the village when they're going to be in town doing things like that. My gut and my common sense tells me they should at least let the police department know. But there's nothing, even not-for-profits are exempt from our peddling law. So the peddling law is just for somebody soliciting and selling wares or soliciting their services to you. There is a link on our homepage, on the villageofwoodbury.com homepage near the bottom to enroll in the No Solicit program. And the police are actually having a session with the senior center next month, I believe it is, where they're going to explain that to them as well in more detail to help those that do attend a senior center.
That's great.
That's wonderful, but to me, when you're knocking on the door for a survey, you're still soliciting information, and I know it doesn't, it's
Correct, but
it's a
there
gray
also,
area.
if it is DOJ, and I don't have any confirmation that it is or it is not, because I did refer the individual to the police department, and I would hope that perhaps the police may come out publicly and make some kind of statement about it, because they have a very active Facebook page, and they do attend the town board meetings, as they are a town department. Maybe the chief will have something at the next week's board meeting, I don't know. But if it's a state agency, they don't need to come and get permission, nor can we make them do so.
Understand, but at least now that we're talking about this and I'm stating my concerns, the board is listening, people who will be watching this, at least they can educate themselves. On to another concern of mine. Years ago, 10 plus years, subdivision was approved, about 8 lots off a timber trail. Ms. Shapiro, who was the property owner, we went through lengthy approvals. My question to the board, from hearing different people who live in Timber Trail, who live off a Timber Trail, when this project was approved, it was with certain ways of doing things. And I know this village board took a sewer easement, I believe it was, on the first property on the left. And from what people are telling me from Timber Ridge, because they're finding out about the proposed project across the street for senior housing, we'll fix your sewer, we do this, we hook up into yours. If things are going to be changed, and if this is all hearsay, why isn't this project back before the planning board to amend their application? Because if you're going to change the sewer lines and to do sewer agreements, if a proposal goes through, I'm just asking this because people ask me because they know where I've been for the last 19 plus years. I tell them, call the building department. I said, Gary can help you, no problem. But I'm asking because I see the way the markings are, and it concerns me because it's not what, when different people come in that buy from the original person who did the application, they don't normally follow the procedures that were approved. It puts a burden on the building department because they can't be out there 24/7 making sure they're not cutting the wrong tree down or putting the wrong driveway in or the wrong road. I'm just concerned because if they're going to be changing anything with this 8-lot subdivision to accommodate another project, I strongly feel as a resident of this village, it should come back before the planning board for some kind of a amendment.
Is that the Carol Jane Daly property you're talking about?
Was that originally hers?
It was originally.
Originally, it's not.
Gary, you have
it's
any
not-
thoughts on
Have a
that?
name
or-
on it, or?
Pavement markings?
It was originally Susan Shapiro who was before the planning board because George Stewart was the chairman at the time.
I just want to make sure for reference wise.
Yeah, I don't
know
think
we
it
have
was-
names for all these things.
I think you just turned it off, Rob.
You want my
Just gotta
microphone?
hold it in.
Board for quite a long time.
There we go.
There you go.
And we did have regular meetings, just like every other subdivision, with the new developers, the new owners, pre-construction meetings. They are bound by a resolution that the planning board approved. They're bound by our permits and the map that was approved, also that was filed with the county. Anything can happen. However, we did make sure that they mark out the trees that are going to be taken down. There's a lot of easements that are in what we call clearing limit lines. So when you do put clearing limit lines and pipes, they don't mix. The trees have to come down because you can't put pipes around trees. So there is a lot of that on that property. They did take photographs of that property. They've submitted those photographs as part of the resolution for approval. We are waiting for certain DEC notifications because they were submitted under the old owner, Susan Shapiro, which now they have to be transferred to the new owner, and that's the last thing we need before we issue what's called a site work permit. Once they would issue a site work permit, our consultants are there to basically check over their work as far as site work, and once they get building permits for the actual houses, which they have to go back in front of the planning board anyway for architectural review, that's a whole different thing. But we can hope that they adhere to the plans. If there's not, there will be consequences and stop work orders. But we did issue stop work. We did have a pre-construction meeting with them. They know the rules. They're hopefully familiar. They have a contractor, a subcontractor that's going to do the site work that's familiar with site work. He's done projects before, so we can only hope.
Okay. Thanks, Gary, for the
You're welcome.
comments. Hope that addressed your question.
I'm okay with the project as it was approved, but my concern is if a sewer line, an agreement is made, if a project goes across the street and the sewer is to be helped with Timber Ridge HOA, because if they have a problem, I'm strongly against that, because then that project should not go forward unless they get approval to change where the sewer lines are going to go. Because that project, as Gary mentioned, we spent a long time, pre-apps, during application, extensions, and it was just a hard application subdivision to go through, and there were so many different things that needed to be adhered to, and I'm just more concerned about the sewer line if it's going to be changed and to accommodate another project. That's my biggest concern, and as I do know, some residents in Timber Ridge are concerned about that as well.
Thank you. Anybody else in the back of the room? We'll go out to department heads. Gary, did you have anything else from the building department? Rob from the highway? No? Jessica? Mickey? No. Okay. Yeah, Mickey's over there. Yeah. We were wondering if you're going to be here. All right, so I just have a couple of quick comments. I'd like to note that, the village board has been very concerned about water and sewer issues, as we've discussed in the past. I've also mentioned in the past that this year, we're going to see the largest period of growth that we've seen in Woodbury since 1985 when the Woodbury Common came to town. As noted before when I was addressing Mr. Smith's question, a little over a week ago I attended a pre-construction meeting with Gary, Rob, and Mickey and some applicants, along with our village engineer, Dennis Lindsay. And I discussed with them all the board's concerns with regard to water and sewer capacity usage and future planning for both water and sewer. I talked about our serious concerns regarding the pace of growth in the village and what we have to do in order to ensure current residents continue to enjoy the resources we all expect as residents. I requested on behalf of the board that the engineer review all of the current data as it relates to sewer flows, capacity of current wells, and the projected gallons per minute of the new well that we have an application in for to the DEC. Engineer Lindsay is currently working on the calculations and will present the board with a report when complete. I do want to comment that Trustee Graziano added several good suggestions for the requested data as it relates to new EPA regulations, and he was very instrumental in asking for additional data on that. He also provided information which is sure to be helpful in providing what is needed for future budgeting and planning for water and sewer. So last week, I also attended the Orange County Sewer District No. 1 Advisory Committee meeting in Goshen, which had many mayors and supervisors from the area in attendance. The discussion centered around their consent order from the DEC and the results of the judge's decision on that, conveyance and capacity in the system and availability capacity, as well as other issues. Earlier this week, myself and Trustee Giacomazza to my left met with Orange County legislators Totel, Benelli, and Amo, and again, that was stated earlier in response to John's question. And we discussed, again, our serious concerns at the county level about all of these issues. We talked about our desire for them to improve our services and to improve our capacity and to deal with it at the county level and not just a local level, because we will do whatever it takes to make sure that we protect our resources, and Trustee Graziano has serious thoughts on that, and we will follow through on whatever it is that we have to do. But I think personally, I think it would be better, and I think Trustee Giacomazza, I'm not going to put words in his mouth, would agree that it would be better if the county took care of the problem at their level. So the options presented by Delaware Engineering to the county were also discussed, and how the county might proceed with one or more of those options. They were informed of our plans to determine our usage and needs, as I just discussed, and then asked what we can do about the situation to help them help us, kind of thing. And they responded with, well, you're already doing it. Exactly what you're doing is what we'd ask you to do, and we're being proactive, in their words, and taking initiative that nobody else is doing just yet. And that's one of the things, again, referring to Mr. Smith's comments and my answers to his questions, that I'm going to try and talk to the other leaders in the community, not just Woodbury, of course, but in other outlying communities, about these issues, and again, try and get us all on the same page so that we can get something done. So once we get that data, of course, Chris will take the lead in analyzing the results of that along with the engineer, and we'll figure out exactly where we are. Just finally, I stress the efforts of the board, we stress the efforts of the board will continue to be centered around protecting our resources and doing everything that we can needed in order to continue to provide the quality water and sewer services that we've all grown fondly accustomed to. So thank you. Chris, comments?
I got nothing.
Okay. Jesus?
I want to thank everyone for the concern, because I had my voice was a couple of weeks has been horrible, and I had throat surgery because I had a cyst in my throat, and luckily it was removed. It's not cancerous, so thank you all for the good wishes.
Okay.
And say happy birthday to my daughter, turned 19. It's the first time away from us, her first birthday away, so.
Happy birthday to
Happy
your
birthday,
daughter.
Angelica. It's Daddy's little girl. And thank you all for coming out and for all your help there and questions. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you. Tara?
I just want to take this time to thank all those involved with the HGTV submission to You Make Over Your Town. And it was really nice to see so many people come together just to work towards something really positive for the community. And, I'd like to, special thanks to Kate Luciani, Colleen Pierce, Annie McGinnis, Robin Kraus, the Woodbury Historical Society, just learning so much history about Woodbury and how rich it is. It really opened our eyes to the potential we could go back to. And I think that was a great experience for so many of us who aren't from here to have gone through and really gave us a newfound appreciation for where we live. So thank you to everyone. It was an amazing effort by many departments, police, fire, ambulance, highway, and thank you all so much. And it was great, and I'm looking forward to hearing about the results. And even if we don't win, I feel like we did win because we all came together to do something nice. So thank you again.
Well said, thank you. Andrew?
That's close. So I just want to thank our legislatures, Mike Amo, Lori Tutel, and Kate Benelli, who did come down here. We not only spoke about our sewer issues or sewer capacity issues throughout Orange County and what we can do, but something that Jesus and I talked about during the campaign was the sales tax distribution and how Woodbury could sort of stake a claim to a larger amount of that. It's a fluid conversation, and I am glad at least that they came and they listened, and we had told them beforehand, this is what you're coming into. So they made every effort to be here, and I thank them for that. I also want to thank, because I struck out twice last year trying to get that meeting together, but I would like to thank Village Clerk Desiree Potvin, who actually was able to make it a reality. I don't know how she did it. I don't know what she promised. There may be a few parcels of land that we're short of in Woodbury, but she did make it a reality, so I do appreciate that. Also, blood. Blood is always something that is always in demand. So here at Village Hall,
That means it's true.
It's not like it's your
yeah,
first
there
time.
it is. We are going to host a blood drive here through the New York Blood Center. There are blood drives already being held in Woodbury, but there is a need. We've got one that the Ambulance Corps handles in August, and then the Marion Flannery blood drive in, I would say, November that is held. So there is a need for one during these winter to spring months. So we are going to be hosting one here, your village board, on March 21st from 9 to 3. Once again, here at Village Hall through the New York Blood Center. So I will be blanketing the towns. Yeah, well, we'll get there. So I will be blanketing Woodbury with various Facebook posts and posters and confetti, whatever I need to do to get people in the door to donate blood, especially my department heads. So
How do you know they're eligible donors?
I don't
I'm
know.
like putting you on the spot.
I'm just gonna assume. And then finally, the Woodbury Lions. I don't know if you were gonna talk about this, Desiree, because you were there, about the Treks. So they are collecting Trex, which is the composite decks and railings. So they've got some contests where they're collecting plastic bags and plastic film. So right now, the Woodbury Lions have set up donation bins throughout the village. They need to collect 500 pounds of plastic, and they will reach their goal, and Trex will send us a bench. So, and then they'll determine where the bench will go in Woodbury. But it sounds like,
A park bench?
yeah. So,
Can I ask you a question? Are they
yeah,
Nice.
made of
are they
Trex.
collecting old Trex decks components?
No,
or-
no.
Plastic.
Plastic.
okay, I
So I'll
wasn't
give you
sure.
an example.
They're trying
Examples
to
of
get people away from.
yes, clean plastic. I'll get to that. So examples of plastic they were looking for are grocery bags, which now that the governor is taxing them, probably got $10,000 worth of plastic bags in my basement.
You're worth something.
They're worth something, I know. Grocery bags, Ziploc bags, cereal bags, bread bags, bubble wrap, dry cleaning bags, so on and so forth. So they're going to have donation bins set up, I think, Town Hall,
My office?
your office, not actually by your desk, though, but somewhere there.
My office, the senior center,
Okay,
Kohl's.
okay,
I think she was going to check to see about Jay's.
okay.
I think I turned the lights on. The issue is that it has to be clean and dry. That's the main issue. So any plastic that you have, if you buy the big things of water, that plastic that goes around that works. The cold cut bags you get when you go to get cold cuts, that works. Any type of plastic that you have, they're collecting. They need, I think it's 500 pounds?
Yeah.
500 pounds, and Kohl's is going to pay to ship the plastic to Trex for the Lions Club. So once they get 500 pounds, then Trex will build a bench and donate it to the community, and the Lions Club will talk to the officials to determine where that bench will be set up. We can get more than one bench, so that would be nice. It's a 6-month period. It's going to start later this month, and it's going to be collected through August. So start collecting your, not plastic bottles, not water bottles, but just plastic.
Okay.
And if you have the poppers, make sure you pop them first, otherwise my office will spend all day doing that.
I'm sure Frank will like that.
Yeah.
Finally, tonight we ratified a new contract for our highway department personnel. And I want to just say personally, what a hardworking group of men we have at our highway department. It's rare that I will go on social media and find complaints about the work that they do. They honestly put the time and effort in. It is not an easy gig. So it was my pleasure to sort of vote to pass that and to work to pass that because, like I said, they deserve every dollar our taxes go towards those men. So thank you once again. And that's it.
Thanks, Andrew. Great comments. Desiree?
This was the first year I missed the Central Valley Bake Off contest, which I was really sad about. I had a family commitment I had to take
You
care
missed
of.
really good cookies.
But I want to congratulate Tara's daughter, right?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Who won first prize in her category. I hear that she made an amazing wafer cookie and
No, it was a chocolate, it was a cookie dough cheesecake bars.
cookie dough cheese
It
pie.
was so good. Oh, my God.
And Jessica and I would love to have some of those in the office anytime. That's it.
Thank you.
Well,
You're welcome.
congratulations, Tara.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so with nothing further to be said, we will do a motion for an adjournment, but before we do that, I just want to tell everybody that after adjournment, we're going to be entering into an attorney-client session with special counsel Brian Nugent. So if you can not dawdle, we'd appreciate it.
That's an easy way to say it.
That's an easy way to say it. So can I have a motion for adjournment, please, in a second?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.